Hello and welcome to the Soulful Valley Podcast. If you're a regular listener, thank you for listening and supporting this podcast. If you're new here and don't know me yet, I'm your host, Katie Carey, independent publisher of books that matter and an international best-selling author, and of course, the host of this globally ranked podcast. I help metaphysical coaches and healers gain confidence, clarity, raise their visibility and their credibility, giving them the opportunity to shine their light brighter so that the people they are here to serve can find them. I do this by creating opportunities for them to become best-selling authors in my multi-author and solo book projects. I also offer one-to-one mentorship services to help spiritual business owners find and unlock their limiting beliefs. In this podcast, I'll be sharing wisdom from myself, coaches, authors and energy healers that could be just what you need to transform your life today. You can connect with me via the Contact Katie button at my website at www.soulfulvalley.com.
You gotta love yourself with all your heart. If you don't already, it's time to start. 'Cause nothing's gonna work out until you do.
Hello and welcome back to the Soulful Valley Podcast. I'm coming back to you with the Energy of Money series, and we still have 4 more episodes to deliver on this series over the next few weeks, which I'm really excited about sharing with you. This year we have 3 book collaborations: Becoming the Manifesting Diva, estimated to launch in June. We still have a couple of author spaces for that, but we're really excited now as the chapters have started rolling in. And we've got another Soulful Poems collaboration for you, book 3 in the series. We've still got several poet spaces if you want to submit your poetry, and a 3rd book in the series for Evolving on Purpose has been birthed, and it's called Evolving on Purpose, Akashic Journeying to Wealth Consciousness. I just thought I would let you all know about these magnificent opportunities that we've created for 2024. I'm also supporting a couple of clients with their solo books starting from tomorrow, and I've got 1 more space for a solo author who either wants to be coached in creating her book or has already created a book and needs help with the publishing and a launch. If that's you, check out in the show notes. All of my opportunities will be linked there. And for now, it's back to the episode you came here for. Melissa Amos helps the spiritually curious all around the world cultivate their spirituality, embrace their intuition, and break free from past restrictions so they can live a life of meaning and purpose. Qualified as a soul transformation therapist, spiritual counsellor, Akashic Records reader, and Holy Fire Reiki Master teacher, Melissa runs a global community, Soul Space, which helps its members embrace their full self, quirks and all, and discover more about who they truly are. Her new book, Memoirs of a Mystic in Training, inspires the reader to understand the thread that weaves through the tapestry of your life and reminds you of the endless possibilities that are available to us in the marvellous messiness we call our lives. Melissa's mission is to create ripples of light by reminding everyone that we are all indeed mystics in training and that we all have access to the mysteries of life. You can find Melissa at melissa-amos.com/links. All of her links will be in the show notes. Hello and welcome to the Soulful Valley Podcast, Melissa.
Thank you for having me, Katie.
Oh, I'm delighted. Thank you for saying yes. I've only recently been aware of you, Melissa, and that's through a mutual friend, Mac.
Mm-hmm.
And then I spotted that you were in some photographs with Kyle Gray. So I've been in a few of his containers as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to watch you a bit more, and then I saw that you were creating a book, and I really wanted that book, and I bought the book and I've started to read it, and I'm going to finish it after this conversation. But I really wanted to speak to you, having seen some of your lives and some of the things that you've created and read a bit of your book, because I've created this series about the energy of money because I've noticed how difficult it is for a lot of spiritual people.
Yeah.
The topic of money, to charge for their services, because they've got this sort of deep conditioning that they have to give everything away. So I thought you'd be a great person to talk about the subject of the energy of money. So before we start with all of the questions and things, can you just introduce yourself to my listeners who don't know who you are yet?
Thank you. So my name is Melissa Amos, and I have the joy of working as a soul mentor, which means that I help people launch into who they are as a spiritual human being, along with all those intuitive superpowers that are often just laying there under the surface, and help people really understand that we're here for a purpose. And that often we have some past life things or things that have happened through our lives that are shackling us. And I help you break free from those things. And I am a spiritual geek. I love all the things, as you'll discover in my book. I love all the things. So I'm qualifying at the moment as a spiritual psychotherapist, which is really nice to have that blend of the psychotherapy and the spiritual tools. I read the Akashic Records, which I know you do as well, Katie, and I'm the author of my new book, Memoirs of a Mystic in Training.
Wow. I think I can see why I've ended up in your world, because I'm into all things spirituality and I love learning, and I'm here, there and everywhere. And I've also studied psychology and counselling, psychotherapy, and all of the mainstream things. So to begin to pull those things together as well.
Yeah.
So that people can understand that there are deeper levels to all of those things.
Yeah.
And for this money series as well, there's a lot of mainstream ideas out there about money, but you'll hear something very different from this series because of the type of people that I'm bringing in to talk about it. So my first question for you today, Melissa, is, can you share any stories or examples of how your spiritual practices have directly influenced your financial decision-making process?
Yeah, I'd love to give you a simple answer for that, but it rarely is it?
No.
And I think that, like most people, I grew up or started my adult life doing the things that I was meant to do. I got the job. I started to work myself up the corporate ladder, as one does. And it was very much this belief that I have to switch my time for money, that somebody else pays me for the output. I was in sales as well. So the output that I put out there. And there was something else driving me that eventually, when I found Reiki back in 2008, there was something else driving me that made me realize that there must be more to it than that. However, when I started on my spiritual path and I learned all about the law of attraction, and I read The Secret, who hasn't read The Secret? I read that and I was like, wow, we can manifest all this stuff. Still very deeply ingrained in me was this thing about time equals money. I think that took me quite a long time to understand, and that work had to be hard. And because that's work, that's like if you look up work, I don't know what it says in the dictionary, but like it's hard. And what I was finding as I started to move more into my purpose, and I started to discover more and practice things like Reiki, and I was doing my coaching and my NLP training, and I was really wanting to get into that, is that money was coming to me and it wasn't hard. But then I wanted to kind of make it hard, because I thought that was what you need to do. So it's like, well, now I need to do this and this and do that and all of this. And it was actually when I discovered the Akashic Records and I had my records opened and I started to discover things about myself, that something opened up. It was almost like I had this energetic expansion that happened, that the more I launched into trusting myself and the more I was just like, well, you know, I'm just going to do this thing that somehow is calling me. And even though I'm absolutely don't feel ready and imposter syndrome is like throwing its toys out the pram at me and all of these things, but the more I trusted myself and allowed myself to do this, the more expansion I was having and the more money was coming in. And I'm supposing it's something that happened on an energetic sense, which then helped to flip my mindset. And actually, for me, it was never really about, well, I need to make X amount of money. It was, okay, well, I'm going to get this stuff out there. And then the money kind of came and followed it.
Which is the opposite to what most people are doing as well, because they're usually chasing the money, aren't they? Or just creating purely for the money rather than what you can give, but without that being a resentful type of giving, which again is something that people get trapped in.
Yeah, I think it's a case of, well, what needs to be expressed for me? Right, this is where I am with it. I think that we all have a purpose in life. I'm like 100% sure that we all have a purpose, but I think there's more than that. I think that we all have 3 purposes. And this was something that I was shown in the Akashic Record when I asked, what is the purpose? What's the purpose of life? And one of the answers that I was given is that, well, our purpose of our life is to grow and to learn and to understand and to begin to follow that joy. And that doesn't mean that we need to become hedonistic, you know, but it's following that thing that lights us up. Like, we started this conversation, Katie, and you said to me, you know, I love learning and all of this. Like, that's what I mean. It's this, okay, well, I'm really interested in that and I really want to discover more about it, or I have this thing inside me that wants to be expressed and be created. And often part of our purpose is freeing ourselves from the things that are stopping that. And I think that's part of our evolutionary growth. But for me, that's purpose number 1, like finding your joy, knowing yourself, know what you love, know what you don't love, know what the stories that you tell yourself that you're ready to break through, all of this, right? But then that comes to the second purpose, which is more around, well, how does me being me influence the wider world? Yeah. How do I, when I'm being me and in my full expression, how does that benefit you or us as a whole? Yeah. Or as a collective. So the people that I have direct contact with or indirect contact with. And then there's the third purpose, which is, how does me doing those 2 things in purpose 1 and 2 then benefit the whole world, the collective? Yeah. And we can look at those things as separate. Well, I need to know myself. I need to make a difference in the world. I need to make a difference to other people. But why would we be given 3 purposes if they weren't intertwined and interlinked? Like they have to be. And that's what led me to the conclusion that the more I am myself, the more then I show up in my full expression, and therefore the more helpful, useful, empowering, or whatever it is that I've come here to be is. And therefore just being that means that the whole, because there's only one of me and there's only one of you with my unique circumstances and gifts and talents and struggles and stories, surely my whole job is I'm going to be me and the whole of me. And then that's what's going to make the difference in the whole world. Otherwise, I'd have been born as somebody else, surely. Yeah. Right. What's it got to do with money? Well, actually, you know, is our purpose always to do with our job? I don't think so. I don't think our purpose is always necessarily our career. I think we can be a purposeful individual and be not being a healer, a writer, an artist. We could be an accountant and still be a purposeful person. Yeah.
Yeah, there are people I've had jobs that I've hated, but I've always seen the reason I've been in that job. So the last job that I was in for 7 years, the first week I was there, I was invited to a meditation class, which is where meditation started for me. and it was a Buddhist monk who led the meditation, but she passed it on to a different lady 3 years later who became a friend. She's been a friend for years now. So I see that job was about that connection, my journey to meditation. Mm-hmm. But often we're so busy hating on the job that we can't see the bigger picture.
Right. And sometimes we're in a circumstance we don't like, and it gives us that compression that we're like, okay, not this, thank you. So what do I want it to be? And this is that perspective shift of, okay, I'm either can resign to this and complain to this. I mean, I was in the motor industry for a long time, and there's a lot of complaining in there. Or I can change my perspective into what is. And even for me, when I was selling cars, I was in an NLP training really one day, and they were like, what do you do? And you're not allowed to use the word sales or cars. What do you do? And I went, I help make people's dreams come true. And that's what I did, because someone walked in and I helped them drive away in the car of their dreams. And that was my job. And what do I do now? Well, I help make people's dreams come true. Same thing. It's just in a different...
got shivers. Head to toe. Wow. So
it's often about who you are when you're doing what you're doing rather than what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. How do you ensure that your financial pursuits align with your soul's purpose and contribute to the greater good?
How do I ensure that my financial pursuits align? You know, for me, it is about alignment. Like, that's the first thing. The financial thing's important. And I really want to get that clear, because I can be here and be like, well, it's all about alignment. I'm going to do all this thing. And then the money's just going to come flowing in. There is a truth to that, but it's not everything. But the first thing is the alignment. I am doing what I am doing. I am learning what I am learning, and then I am finding the courage and the confidence and the faith to express that, because I could learn all the things and I could sit in my room and know all the things and want to change the world. And if I don't go out there and do anything, then no one's going to know about it. So part of my thing is, well, I need to be able to express that. And often for many of us, especially in the spiritual realm, and who are wanting to work more as healers and readers and psychics and coaches and all of these amazing things that we can do, we often have that healing journey to do. How do I get this out there? I've got all the talents in the world now. How I've learned the 25 modalities now.
I've got a fear of visibility.
Right. So that's a big thing, and it's about showing up. And for me, my recommendation of that is to begin by showing up to somewhere where you feel safe. So maybe you join a community, or maybe you even join a little Facebook group, or maybe you find that meditation circle and you tell 1 or 2 people or 3 people or 5 people or 10 people what it is that you're doing. Yeah. You do it from you do it from that sense of alignment first. This is what I love. This is my joy. This is my passion. And then you make it bigger than you. Someone said something to me once, and it sticks with me even to this day. So it was many years ago. I was on an NLP training. So this was like even before all the like energy stuff. Yeah. And I was doing this training. I think it was the second time I was on it. And it was very practical. We had to do all these swaps. And this woman said to me after, she's like, "You're very good at this." And I went, "Oh, thank you." She said, "Is this what you do?" And I said, "No, at the time I was working for somebody else." She said, "Is this what you do?" I said, "No. It's just, maybe one day." And she was like, she looked me in the eye, right? She was this little Russian lady. She looked me in the eye and she went, "You are very selfish." And I was like, "What?"
Wow.
She was like, "You are very selfish. You have a gift and you should be doing this. And, and you working for somebody else isn't going to be helping that." And I was just like, I felt so called out and so seen by this woman. I was like, oh my God. But she was so right. Like, by me not doing and utilizing the gifts that I had, I was being selfish, because I was pandering really to my ego that was telling me, no, you can't. You can do this here in the safe environment, but you can't do this publicly. And she was right. And that sticks with me. And so when I start listening to that voice in my head that tells me no, then I hear my little Russian lady friend tell me, don't be so selfish and go out and do it anyway.
If it's not about you, it's never been about you, has it?
Well,
it's the greater good that we've been given these gifts for.
It's about me showing up as me for the benefit of the greater good.
Yeah.
I think that often, again, in the spiritual thing, then we're like, oh, you know, it needs to be about everybody else, and there's this altruism, and we do everything for that, and it's not the me, it's the we, and that is true, but we can't be the we if there's not a me in there. Like, and you know, for me, the first rule and this first purpose, and I think the reason it's the first is because is where it begins. You know, and I suppose we can come at it from all angles, but it's got to start with the know thyself. Because I could turn around and say, well, I want to go to purpose number 3 and I want to change the world. I want to change the world. And that's a really great thing to want to do. I want to change the world, like goodness me. But that's so big. And where do I begin? And how do I change the world? But I'm just one person of 7 billion. And what do I do there? And then I look at them and, oh, well, she's changing the world over there. So maybe I go and be her. And then what happens, because it's not me, I try and be her. And then I'm like, well, I'm full of imposter syndrome because that's not my thing. I don't really know what I'm doing because I've not learned and studied it. Or I'm like, right, I'm going to go and get the degree in this, but it's not what feels good for me. And then the energy goes, right? Or I can be like, oh, I want to help other people. Well, what's a good way of helping other people? Oh, well, she's doing that, so I'm going to do it that way. But then my energy's not in it, and then I'm just kind of through the motions. If it starts with me, you know, I got a week off work. I took a week's holiday off work to do this NLP training. And why? It wasn't a jolly, but there was something in me that enjoyed it and loved it and was inspired by it and felt nourished and nurtured by it. Whereas somebody can be listening to this going, well, that's not my idea of fun. So don't go and do what I do. Figure out what it is that gives you that sense of real altruism. Like, I want to do this because it's helping others, but because it's sparking me and my joy in the first place. For me, we get that right, and the financial aspect of it almost seems easier, because then you like, for me, I've come to this realization that I'm doing what I'm doing because this is me, and no one else can do it in the way that I do. I'm not saying I'm the best at what I do, but I'm the best at being me at what I do. And so now I can charge for that. And interestingly, you know, as my prices go up and I get more busy, and it's just I'm sure you found that as well. It's like this kind of, as you step more into who you are and you're like, okay, this is the next level, this is the next level, this is the next level. The right people then come to you, because then on a frequency level, you're at that vibrationary match to who I am and what I know and what I've learned and what I'm expressing to the person who needs my unique flavor of healing, guiding, mentorship.
Totally makes sense. And there comes a point where when you're at that frequency and that level, you don't see things as a cost anymore. It's not. It's just a tool that you use to take you to the next level, isn't it? Or to the next thing that you want to create, whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah. You know, an important part of this conversation as well is that when there's more and more of us who are arriving into consciousness, they're for me and for us. Yeah. Me and you, or me and us. And if I charge so that I can do this, if I charge £10 for an hour of my time, I couldn't do what I'm doing. I would have to go and then spend 8 hours of my time working for somebody else doing whatever it is that I'm doing. Or I'd have to literally work 24 hours a day, and then I'd burn out, and then I wouldn't be able to give you even the value of £10.
No, right? Your energy just wouldn't be in the right space.
Right. And so there's something there about, finding that. And I don't think that there's a set price. I don't think it's like, well, every coach should be charging X amount of money. Like for me, my prices went higher as my experience levels and my trainings and my investments and all of this stuff, right, as they went up. So I think that we kind of land into these increments, and sometimes it's scary to do that. At one point I doubled my prices and I was like, oh my God, nobody's ever going to come to me ever again. And I had some people that I can't pay that. But actually what that did is that when people were paying the double the price, then it allowed me to offer scholarships if I needed to, or to to bring help, or to do swaps, or to do something else, because the income's being supplemented somewhere else. And so by me charging something, I'm actually doing more worth and value and better for me, for us, for the world. Yeah. And we're these conscious beings. Like, money's good in our hands, right? When you're buying something, like me, when I'm buying something, I'm thinking, well, I'd like to go to, I think like this candle that sits behind me is, it wasn't the cheapest candle in the world, but I know who made it, I know where it came from, and I'm supporting another business. This shelf behind me, and man, I met like handcrafted and made it with so much joy and love, and it's like I can do those kind of things because in my hands, money, the money's better in my hands than in the grand conglomerates of,
because we get to choose a bit more consciously about where we put it and who we're supporting.
Yeah.
Melissa, how do you navigate the balance between serving others and valuing your own worth when it comes to pricing your offerings? We've probably covered a little bit of that already, but
yeah, I think it's important to remember that our value and our worth are inherent. They just are. And it's understanding that if I'm actually making a difference doing what I'm doing, yeah, I need to be financially rewarded for that. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. Like literally, I can't. And and people often say in this thing, oh well, what you're getting is free, especially like Reiki. I teach Reiki, and that question often comes up, well, how can I charge for this? And it's like, well, you've got to charge. I've got my space here, and I've got to charge for the room, and it's got to be heated, and I've got to eat, and I've got to train, and I've got to do all of these things. And it's understanding that it's okay to charge, first of all, and you should be. And actually, even if we're talking about Reiki, even Master Usui in his teaching spoke about the exchange. There has to be an exchange, and that doesn't always have to be money, but in this world, that is our energy exchange. That just is. It's like, yeah, I'd love to just be able to give you a cup of milk from my goat, but I don't have a goat, but I can go to the shop and buy you with money. Yeah If we really land into this thing that we all have a purpose, and our purpose is to know myself and to be my true self, and then to help others, it kind of makes sense that if we were all doing that, and truly all doing that, the world would just run and it would just flow. And so it's got to start with me. Now, here's the other thing that's really interesting, especially as you start to get more in the public eye, and people find you that you've never met before. And you'll know this, Katie, from, all the books and all of the collaborations that you've done with other people. As you show up and you model this behavior, you model this, like, it's okay, this is what I do, and this is what I'm charging for, and this is, and it's okay, and I'm going to sell my book, and it's going to cost you money if you want to buy it, or I'm going to sell you my coaching service, and it's going to cost you money if you think you'll benefit from it. It gives other people permission to do the same.
Yeah, because I hadn't seen the things that I'm doing now. I hadn't seen that in my world until I came into the podcasting, and then I entered the world of people creating book collaborations. I didn't know that was a thing. And then I discovered a lot of authors that are really successful had started that way as well. So that made it okay. But I also ended up noticing that there were a lot of people around me where they started to compete and put their prices down and tried to be cheaper than each other when there were costs involved. And for me, it was more important that there was value. So I wanted to bring in an editor that was a good editor, not just farm it out to someone who's not such a good editor and doesn't care. So bringing in that value as well,
right,
is important. So it's not about the cost, it's about the value, isn't it, when you're investing in something like that?
Yeah. And it's such a nuanced conversation as well, because we've, this whole thing about charging your worth, it's like, well, you're worth anyway.
So it's nothing to do with that.
You're invaluable, and it's owning that I own my worth. I know that, as even if I produce nothing today, as a human being, I am worthy. If I invited you to come into one of my offerings and you didn't, or no one did, it's coming into that, well, I'm still worthy anyway. I might have just been talking to the wrong people, or maybe they didn't value the service that I was offering today. It's got nothing to do with you as a human that is worthy. However, we also just need to make sure that we're talking to the right people, and that we're clear with the values that we're offering other, and the value that we are offering other, and being confident to come and talk about that, which, might lead to a nice big healing journey. It may, or it may be a quick, like what happened to me through my Akashic training, where things just kind of flipped even before I had a conscious awareness of it. That doesn't mean it all changed overnight. There was still increments in there. So you brought up a really interesting point about people competing with each other. Yeah, we can do market research. We can look at, well, what are other people charging for this? And that's really useful information. But I think we're moving into this age of collaboration, and it's people like us that are really leaning into self and into what it is that we are offering and aligned to. Then the competition thing feels less, well, she's doing that, and you know what, she's doing that, and she'll find her people, and I'm doing this and I'll find my people. And whatever I'm charging, whether it's £10 or £10,000 for an hour of my time, there will be somebody in there. If you are aligned to what you're doing, there will be somebody in there that's aligned to you. Otherwise, you would not have the desires and the skills and all of the situations that have led you to that point. It wouldn't happen. It literally means that there's a vibrational match there somewhere, but you've got to land into it and then own it, and then know that it's less to do with you as a value, as we're human, but the value of your service meeting the value of what somebody needs right now at that time.
And that leads in nicely to the final question. Have you ever encountered any resistance or skepticism from others regarding the integration of spirituality and money, and how do you handle such situations?
Yeah, I do experience, I not as much anymore, actually. But it happens when, my pricing started to change. When I was it does come up every now and then. It really truly comes back to trusting yourself, and also not trying to convince anybody. This kind of sales thing, right? Remember I said that when I sold cars, I actually helped make people's dreams come true. That was actually my philosophy there. It drove my bosses mad, right? That I didn't really feel like I had to do all these clever sales tricks to get people to buy the car. They walked into the showroom that I was in. They want the car, right? And all my job is to facilitate that, to make it possible for them. That's it. That's my job. And how do I do that? Is to help them understand that their value, that they're getting the value from it, that it's the one of their dreams, that it's going to give them all of the things that they've got in the back of their mind that they want to do. That's my job. It's not to sell anyone anything. We take that with this. Like, my job isn't to convince you to come and work with me. My job is to go, this is who I am, and this is what I offer, and this is what I help. And this is what I've discovered, and this is and you hear it, and you through the frequency of my voice, and you feel it through, through the energy I put out there. And then if we're the match, then for you it'll just be like, yeah. And so I'm done with convincing people.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I don't launch. That's how we met, really, through one of my launches. Of course I launch, because then that's me showing up and going, here we go. Here is a display of all of the things that I do. And out of the, however many hundred of people that were in there, a selection of you decided to come and join my membership. But I wasn't like, well, phoning all the other ones up going, well, and them going, well, you're charging too much money. It's like, okay, well, for you, maybe that's the truth, and that's okay. And if there's a way we can work with it, then great. And if not, then do you know what? There's other people that fit your budget, or that fit your desires, or that fit your whatever. Just let go of trying to convince everybody that they need what you offer. Offer what you offer, and speak about it with that passion and that confidence and that knowing and what it is that they want. And the right people will find you and come to you and say yes to you. And that's, for me, what it feels like, that effortless flow.
Thank you. I know a lot of people benefit from hearing that. Melissa, is there anything else that you'd like to share that we haven't spoken about today?
Oh, we could talk for hours. We can't. Is there anything else? I really just want to land back into this thing that we all have a purpose. My book, Mystic in Training. Why did I call it that? Because I do believe that we are all mystics in training. And what does that mean? That means that there is magic available to us all of the time. It's just us finding that and attuning into, well, how do I discover that? How do I trust that? How do I activate that in me? What is it about me that wants to be explored and expressed in the world? How do I see things from this space of, the bigger picture, the grander picture? Yeah. And the more you know yourself, the stories that go in your head, the fears that arise in you, the talents and the strengths and the things that light you up and bring you joy and essence. The more you know that about you, the more you can take aligned, inspired action. And the more you take aligned, inspired action, the more magic you'll see in the world. And the more magic you see in the world, the more magic, inspired action you'll take. And it just keeps moving and going. That doesn't mean that there's not struggles. That doesn't mean that there's not healing. That doesn't mean that there's not, things that we need to evolve and grow through. That's part of our purpose. But when we know that we're moving into this highest, most aligned and most magical version of ourselves, and she's not over there, she's actually here, just journeying with that point, the easier or even the more mystical and magical life seems to become. And for me, that's what it's all about.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. If any of our listeners want to come and check you out, where can they find you?
They can find me on Facebook, Instagram, at the Melissa Amos. I'm across all the platforms at the Melissa Amos. My website is melissa-amos.com. Can I give them a free gift?
You can. I'll pop the link in the show notes after.
Well, part of what I found is one of our biggest struggles is understanding that inner voice and differentiating it between that and all the other voices. So I've recorded a short meditation with a little exercise that is attached to it to really help you lean into your own unique way of listening to spirit or intuition. And you can just find that on my website at melissa-amos.com/free-gift.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for today, Melissa.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.
So ask yourself, is this for me? Give yourself some boundaries. Learn to trust your intuition now.
Thanks for listening to the Soulful Valley Podcast. I trust that you will have heard something today that you were ready to hear, and that it's made you feel a little lighter, more aligned and connected with your soul's purpose, and you have been reminded of who you really are and the true nature of the power that you hold within you. My aim for this podcast is to bring love, light, wisdom, raise consciousness, and ease suffering. If you've enjoyed the show, go back and listen to some of the back catalogue of previous episodes. Subscribe, follow, rate and review so that you're notified when new episodes drop in, and share this podcast with anyone that you think it may help to listen to. You can connect with me at soulfulvalley.com, and if you scroll to the bottom of the website, there are links to my social media platforms.